Hey everybody, welcome back to another video of me explaining some of the Breezin through theory lessons. Last time we were together, we looked at lessons 1.1 and 1.2. These outlined the pitch and the staff, the different clefs, and the note names on our staff. Remember, the higher the pitch, the higher it is on the staff, and the lower the pitch, the lower it is on the staff. Our staff is made up of 4 spaces and 5 lines, and we count them starting from the bottom going to the top. With our clefs, we have 2 kinds of clefs. We have what's called a treble clef, generally used for higher instruments, and another clef called the bass clef, generally used for lower instruments. Depending on the clef you have, will tell you which note names live on which lines and spaces. If any of that seemed a little bit odd, go back and review the first 2 lessons. Lesson 1.3 deals with a musical term called ledger lines. Let's learn a little bit more about ledger lines together.
For notes higher or lower than the 5-line staff, we use ledger lines to show their pitch. Here are the treble clef notes.
The last time we were together, we learned that the spaces on the treble clef spell out the word face if you start from the bottom space and going up. We also learned that the lowest note on the line was an E, and the highest note on the line was an F. What we've seen here is that when we extend outside of the staff, we use ledger lines to continue the pattern of lines and spaces. If we imagine E being on the bottom line, and we go backwards in the alphabet 1 letter, we come to D, which would be right below E. If we go backwards 1 more time, we go down to C, and then down to B, and so on and so forth. It's a little easier to see as we go up. If the top line of the treble clef staff is an F, the space above it will need to be a G. If that note is a G, then if we go 1 higher, we're going to start our musical alphabet over again at A. If we go 1 note higher up to another space, it's going to become a B. 1 note higher up to another line becomes a C, and 1 note even higher continues on to D. When we change the clefs, we're going to find out we have the exact same alphabet pattern with our ledger lines. However, since the bass clef gives different note names to the different lines and spaces, you start the alphabet pattern in a different place.
Here are the bass clef notes. Below, above,
if we remember the names of our bass clef spaces and lines, we can see this pattern very easily. The names of the spaces are A, C, E, and G. The sentence I like to use to remember that is all cars eat gas. The lines are a little bit different. The lowest line is G, the next line is B, the next line is D, the third line is F, and the top line is A. If we come over to our second group of notes here, if we remember that A lives on the top line, B is going to live on the space above it. As we go up to another line, it'll go up to C, another space goes up to D, and so on and so forth. Memorizing the lines and spaces is great if all the notes live within the staff, but once they go above or below, we need to use our alphabet pattern to remember the note names. The last time we were together, we looked at the Mad Dash exercise 1.1a, where we had to enter note names for notes that lived in the staff. That was this exercise. Now, we're ready to do an exercise with notes that live outside of the staff. Since last time we looked at naming notes within the staff, this time I'd like to look at entering ledger line note names. Don't forget, when you're completing your drill, you want to complete all of the portions on the bottom so that you no longer end with a down arrow, but instead you have a thumb. Let's look at our first example here together. They want us to write a B above the staff. If we remember, our top line is F, the next space would be G, the next line would be A, and a B would live there. We can do that same pattern to figure out an A above the staff. If our top line is F, the top space would be G, and A would be on the first line. If we're trying to do notes below the staff, we can do the same pattern, but we have to go backwards in the alphabet. If the lowest line is E, the space below it would be D. This line below that would be C, and the B would live there. We can do the same thing with an A. Just remember, if we're going down, we move backwards in the alphabet. If the lowest line is E, the space below it is D. The line below that would be C. The space we already know will be a B. So to get to an A, we would have to go down to the bottom line. Now, the bass clef staff, this is what happens if you don't get all the right answers. The bass clef staff is going to work the exact same way, but there are different note names for the lines and spaces. Let's look at an example for the bass clef staff. Let's name ledger line notes from our bass clef staff. The pattern will still be the same, but we have to start in a different place. Let's start with this note all the way down here. The bottom line of a bass clef staff is G. The space below it would be F. The line below it would be E. The space below would be D. The next line would be C, and so that's going to make this a B. This can be really handy to help you move your alphabet backwards. Let's figure out this note together. If the bottom line is a G, the space below it would be an F. The line below that would be an E. The space below that would be a D. And so this note will be a C. Hopefully these explanations were helpful in getting you through your lessons and some of your mad dash drills. Don't be afraid to reach out to any of your music teachers because we all can help you get through this. Good luck, and let us know if you need any help.